The Secret of Maplewood Forest, Chapter 1, The Mysterious Letter. It was a sunny afternoon in the small town of Riverton when Emma Johnson, a 15-year-old girl, sat in her bedroom reading a book. She loved adventures, but Riverton was far from adventurous. Life here was peaceful, but a little too quiet for Emma's taste. She often daydreamed about having her own adventure like the heroes in the books she read. One day, something unexpected happened. As she walked home from school, she noticed an envelope lying on the ground near her mailbox. There was no stamp, just her name written on the front, Emma Johnson. Curious, Emma opened the envelope. Inside was a short letter. If you're reading this, you are closer to the adventure of a lifetime. Meet me at the old oak tree in Maplewood Forest at midnight tonight. You won't regret it. There was no signature, no clue as to who had written the letter. Emma's heart raced. Who could it be? Was it a prank, or was it something real? Maplewood Forest was a large, mysterious place just outside Riverton, and few people ever went there at night. Emma felt a mixture of fear and excitement. Should she go? What if it was dangerous? But the thought of an adventure was too tempting to resist. Chapter 2: Into the Wood. That night, Emma made her decision. She waited until everyone in the house was asleep and quietly dressed in dark clothes. She grabbed a flashlight, put on her sneakers, and snuck out of the house. The air was cool, and the moonlight barely lit the path as she made her way to Maplewood Forest. The forest was much darker than she expected. Tall trees with thick branches blocked out most of the moonlight, and the sounds of animals moving in the undergrowth made her jump more than once. But Emma kept walking, her heart pounding in her chest. Finally, she reached the old oak tree mentioned in the letter. Its twisted branches stretched out like arms in the darkness. Emma stood there, unsure of what to expect. Was anyone going to meet her? Just as she was about to turn back, she heard a rustling sound. Someone stepped out from behind the tree. It was a boy, around her age, with messy brown hair and a backpack slung over his shoulder. He smiled at her. "Emma, right?" he asked. "Yes, but who are you?" Emma asked, still unsure whether to trust him. "I'm Jack." "I left you the note," he replied. "Why? What's going on?" Jack hesitated, then looked around nervously. "I can't explain everything right now, but I need your help. You're the only one who can solve the mystery." "What mystery?" Emma asked, feeling both confused and intrigued. "Follow me," Jack said, starting to walk deeper into the forest. Chapter 3: The Hidden Map. Emma followed Jack for what felt like hours, though it was probably only a few minutes. They finally arrived at a small clearing in the forest, where the moonlight illuminated a large stone slab on the ground. Jack knelt down and brushed away leaves and dirt from the slab, revealing strange symbols carved into the stone. "Treasure?" Emma asked, feeling a surge of excitement. Jack nodded. "My great-grandfather was an explorer. He traveled the world, and he hid something valuable here in Maplewood Forest. I've been trying to figure out how to find it for years, but I can't do it alone." Emma looked at the symbols on the stone. They were unlike anything she had ever seen before, and she had no idea how they could lead to treasure. "How am I supposed to help?" she asked. Jack smiled again. "You're smart and you're good at puzzles, right? I've seen you solve things in class that no one else can. I think you can crack this code." Emma wasn't sure how Jack knew so much about her, but she couldn't deny that the idea of solving a mystery excited her. She knelt down next to him and studied the symbols carefully. There were 4 different shapes, each one connected by lines that formed a kind of maze. "This looks like a map," Emma said after a while. "But it's not showing directions. It's showing places." "Exactly," Jack said. "The places are in the forest. We have to go to each one to find the clues that will lead us to the treasure." Emma felt a thrill of anticipation. This was the adventure she had always dreamed of. Chapter 4: The First Clue. The next morning, Emma and Jack met again, this time in daylight. Jack had packed food, water, and tools for their journey, and Emma brought her phone, flashlight, and notebook to record any clues they found. They began by following the path indicated on the stone map. Their first destination was an old, abandoned cabin deep in the forest. The walk took longer than they expected, and by the time they arrived, the sun was already setting. The cabin was small and looked as though it had been abandoned for years. Its windows were broken, and the door hung off its hinges. Inside, the wooden floor creaked under their feet, and the air was thick with dust. Emma noticed a small chest in the corner of the room. She walked over to it and opened it cautiously. Inside was a piece of parchment with more strange symbols on it. "Look," she said, showing it to Jack. "This must be the first clue." They studied the parchment together. It showed a series of lines and shapes, much like the map on the stone slab, but these were different. At the bottom of the parchment was a single word, "courage." "What do you think it means?" Emma asked. Jack shrugged. "I don't know, but we have to keep going. Maybe the next clue will make it clearer." Chapter 5: Danger in the Forest. They continued their journey, moving deeper into the forest. As they walked, the trees grew denser, and the air became cooler. Emma felt as though they were being watched, but whenever she looked around, she saw nothing. Suddenly, they heard a growl. Emma froze, her heart pounding in her chest. Jack grabbed her arm and pulled her behind a tree. "What was that?" Emma whispered. Jack looked scared. "It could be wolves. They live in these woods." Emma's stomach churned. She had never been this far into the forest before, and now the idea of wild animals terrified her. The growling grew louder, and then they saw them, 3 large wolves with dark fur and glowing eyes, slowly approaching. "We need to get out of here," Jack whispered urgently. They ran, sprinting through the trees as fast as they could. Emma's heart raced as she dodged branches and leaped over roots. She could hear the wolves behind them, their growls growing louder. They didn't stop running until they reached a small stream. The wolves didn't follow them across the water. Breathing heavily, Emma and Jack sat down on the other side, trying to catch their breath. "That was close," Jack said, wiping sweat from his forehead. Emma nodded, her heart still pounding. "Do you think they'll come back?" "I don't think so," Jack replied. "We're safe for now, but we need to keep moving." Chapter 6: The Cave of Secrets. As the sun set, casting a golden glow over the forest, Emma and Jack arrived at their second destination, a hidden cave behind a waterfall. The roar of the water was deafening, but the entrance to the cave was just big enough for them to squeeze through. Inside, the air was damp and cool. The walls of the cave were covered in strange symbols, similar to the ones they had seen on the stone slab and the parchment. Emma shone her flashlight around the cave, and her beam landed on something unusual, a large stone pedestal in the center of the room. On the pedestal was an old, rusted key. "This must be the second clue," Emma said, walking up to the pedestal. Jack nodded. "But what does the key open?" Emma examined the key closely. It was engraved with a single word, wisdom. "First courage, and now wisdom," Emma said thoughtfully. "These words must mean something. Maybe the treasure isn't gold or jewels. Maybe it's something more important." Jack looked at her, impressed. "You might be right, but we still have one more clue to find." Chapter 7: The Final Clue. The last location on the map was the oldest part of the forest, where the trees were so tall and thick that no sunlight could reach the ground. As they made their way through the undergrowth, the atmosphere grew eerie and unsettling. At the heart of this part of the forest, they found an ancient stone circle. In the center of the circle was a statue of a figure holding a scroll. At the base of the statue was another piece of parchment, just like the one they had found in the cabin. Emma picked it up and read it aloud. "The greatest treasure lies not in gold or silver, but in the strength of the heart and mind." Jack stared at the parchment in amazement. "It's not about treasure at all, is it?" Emma shook her head. "No, I think the real treasure is the knowledge and strength we've gained from this journey." Chapter 8: The Real Treasure. As they stood in the stone circle, the meaning of the clues became clear to Emma. Courage, wisdom, and strength, these were the qualities that truly mattered. The adventure had taught them both valuable lessons about bravery, intelligence, and perseverance. Emma smiled. "We found the treasure after all." Jack laughed. "I guess we did. And maybe that's worth more than gold." Together, they walked out of the forest, the sun rising behind them as they returned to Riverton, carrying the real treasure in their hearts. Thanks for listening. Please like and subscribe for more English stories. See you next time.